What's going on, everybody? Max is getting situated. Max, take your time. No rush at all. Max was just in Florida, so he's making his way back, getting situated. Jim, our producer, as always, behind the setup. What's going on, Jim?
Not much.
Happy Monday. Jeez, days are mixed up. It is definitely a Monday. A lot of topics, a lot of fun stuff that happened over the weekend, and even today in the sports world. I wanted to start, as you guys know, right? We're going to go through NBA, college basketball, NHL, whatever, as well as the prevalent topics. But as I was driving over to the studio, yes, I was stopped and I was at a red light. I saw Max's Instagram story. Max, what's going on again, man? And it was Russell Wilson in a New York Giants uniform. So talk to me. Is the dream? It seems like there's a Russell Wilson in different spots has been talked about nonstop. But are you trying to get him in New York?
Yeah, it's like I don't know.
I'm not picking you up on the mic. You got to talk right into it.
How about this better?
Not really. I don't know what's going on.
Technical difficulties. Yeah. Jim, if you want to go ahead and mute all for a second and show the
show begins. Or
yep.
the
Yep. There we go.
All right, talk right into the mic right now.
Test.
I could get nothing out of that. Jeez. You see if I can do this in VMix.
We're muted on the stream. I believe so.
Yeah, we're muted.
All right, let's run it back.
We're back.
It's a Monday. It's a Monday for everybody here on set and in studio. We're back. Max was in Florida. How was your weekend?
It was great. It was a lot of fun. I visited a friend down there. First time experiencing Bike Week in Daytona Beach. Might be my last time experiencing Bike Week in Daytona Beach, but it was a lot of fun. It was
Crazy down there.
A very interesting crowd. Not a crowd I've been used to, but it was still a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Love to hear it. As you guys heard, Max on his TikTok live, I believe, we're approaching 600 subscribers. Every 100 we did this with Jay last year. We'll give you guys a jersey, one random subscriber. So if you're new, tap in, drop a sub. We appreciate you guys. But again, I was saying, as I was driving over here, I saw Max's Instagram. And as we heard the news about Russell Wilson, he's cut from the Denver Broncos. I believe it was, $85 million cap hit, dead cap hit. So ugly dreams and nightmares over there in Denver. But it was Russell Wilson photoshopped in a Giants jersey.
Yes.
So what's the backstory there? Are we still, obviously as a Giants fan, are you pushing for Russ to come over to New York?
I think so. I think, the dream of Russell Wilson coming to the Giants was more of a thing 2 years ago when the future of Daniel Jones was super uncertain and Russell Wilson was a free agent got traded, to Denver, but was on his way out of Seattle. So it looks different now. But the situation that the Giants are in, and this is how I view it at least, you have Brian Daboll, who, whether rightfully or not, I don't think he rightfully is on the hot seat. I think a lot of people will agree he is on the hot seat.
He has to be.
Joe Shane, their general manager, who has not done a bad job at all. You can't just discount a season with a playoff win. Also kind of on the hot seat, I'm not going to lie, because of the decision he made with Daniel Jones. If there is no production this year, it's hard for those guys to at least 100% keep their jobs. I don't think it's a go all in and try to win as many games as you can this year. I don't think that's realistic for the Giants, but I will say this is the year where those jobs are going to be on the line. You can get Russell Wilson for a minimum deal, which I don't think he's going to take a lot of money. It doesn't sound like he's going to take a lot of money.
Right.
It sounds like he just wants to start somewhere. Would be shocked if he went to New York and did not start. I don't think it's out of the question to bring Russell Wilson in because of the question mark that Daniel Jones is. I think, honestly, if Daniel Jones plays the way he did 2 years ago and Russ has been playing like he has been the past couple of years, there's not a lot that separates them.
Let me ask you this. If, let's just say hypothetically, the Giants sign Russ tomorrow.
Yeah.
With the way the roster is currently structured and configured, and again, the Giants are going to make some moves, draft, trade deadline, whatever the case is. Trade deadline is obviously in season, but free agency rather. Yeah. Who gives the Giants a better chance to win at quarterback, Russell Wilson or Daniel Jones?
Oof. Saquon's still there?
No, because he's not. He's currently a free agent now,
okay.
Right?
Yes. Probably Russ.
Russ?
Yeah. I think what the thing about that, the distinction, that run game was Saquon. Daniel Jones and Saquon, I think, complement each other really well in the run game. I don't know if Russ could give the Giants that, but I do think you get the 6th overall pick, you take a receiver, at least I think they'll take a receiver, shore up the receiving corps in free agency, hopefully figure out a better offensive line. Like I do think Russ gives him a better chance to win.
The one thing you mentioned about running the ball with Daniel Jones is, like, people sleep on him. He has wheels.
Yeah.
He can run.
Yeah.
He's mobile. But interesting. Jim, what about you? Who gives the Giants a better chance to win?
I would think Russell Wilson.
And that's right. We were talking about this off air before the show started, right? It's like Russell Wilson didn't have a bad year last year. I mean, he wasn't great.
No, but it was better than 2 years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think we've touched on this several times, whether it's on Twitter or on a different show, whatever the case is. I really do think that Sean Payton and that Denver Broncos regime, rather, they're in a bad spot. I mean, we mentioned it, right? You gave up all the capital, all the draft capital and financials off the books for Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
You took the dead cap hit. And then you traded a first and a second, was it, for Sean Payton, right?
Yeah.
So is it safe to say now that was the worst trade in NFL history?
It's certainly up there. It is certainly up there. As of now, yeah, because he's off the team, yes. It's like, if you're Denver, like we talked about, like you said before the show, you are going all in to build this perennial powerhouse in Denver. At the time, you still had some really good defensive players when you got Russell Wilson, too. Like, that team took a step back defensively in Russell Wilson's tenure there. That fast of a turnaround makes it that bad because you're trading for a guy, you're bringing somebody in who, you're a team that's a quarterback away, even though that's really never the case. You bring in a guy, you're a quarterback away, and you are horrible the first year. Then last year, they're okay. They're not great. It is right now probably the worst trade because he's off the team. It's insane to me that that's the direction that Denver went. I would not have seen that coming. I didn't even think they were that bad of a team this past year, but
I didn't either.
Yeah.
The whole situation is just bizarre. Broncos country, let's ride. The ride was worse than that. What's that wooden roller coaster at Cedar Point that's like 80 years old and all you do is bump and your head goes back and forth?
The blue streak.
Blue streak. That was, we'll call it Bronco streak. That's what happened in Denver with Russell
Bronco
Wilson.
Streak, yeah.
Bronco streak. Some other news, headlines, and notes over the weekend. Even in today, Mike Evans staying in Tampa Bay 2 years, $56 million. He's 31 years old. He's been a Tampa Bay Buck his whole career. I believe he's one of 2 receivers all time that's had at least 1,000 yards in every year in his career.
Yep.
We were going back and forth, right? And again, if you're watching this and you know me on Twitter, I get categorized as a lot as a Baker Mayfield hater. And you got the Baker bros, you got this and you got that. Look, I said it, right? Baker Mayfield had a great year last year. but the Baker, whatever you want to call them, they were trying to make Mike Evans staying in Tampa Bay about Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Maybe it had a little bit to do with it, but in the long run, I mean, the guy's 31 years old. Tampa Bay loves him. They'd love to have him a Tampa Bay Buck his entire career. I mean, I don't think he's getting that much money annually at that age elsewhere.
No, I don't think he's getting that much money elsewhere. I do think it helps Baker, like it gives Baker more motivation to come back. But to think that this move explicitly was to bring Baker Mayfield back, I think we'd be kind of fooling ourselves.
100%.
Because, like you said, Baker had a good year. I am honestly on the side where I think that year could have been replicated with a few different quarterbacks. I don't think it was like a wildly successful year. I mean, they were 9-8
in the worst division
in the
football.
worst division in football, a game away from not even making like. I think Baker was awesome. I think it's a great story. I think his success gets overblown because of the story that it was. With that being said, probably the best option they have to bring him back outside of Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins, but. It's not about Baker. It's about Mike Evans. It's about him being like a Tampa Bay Buccaneer legend. Like he has a Super Bowl with them. He's been there for close to a decade, has the production that he's had. It's about retaining a guy that's been so good to you and using the last couple of years of his prime athleticism to, who knows, make a run. I do really think they feel the Atlanta Falcons right behind them. I really do think the Bucs feel the Falcons. I think the Falcons are coming. I think they don't go quarterback in the draft. They get somebody in free agency and then build somewhere else up in the draft. Like they got a good roster. They got talent on the offensive side of the ball, defense that's better than people give them credit for. I think Tampa, I really do think they feel that. I think they feel their grasp on the division slipping.
Yeah, I think they do too. And I think you can make a strong argument that overall the Atlanta Falcons are a better team than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Take away the quarterback position.
Even with, honestly, I don't think there's much that separates them.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably take a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team with Baker Mayfield over any of the quarterbacks the Falcons had last year. But I think it's a valid question, or a valid point rather. But yeah, I think they're going to feel the Falcons, no doubt.
Yeah.
And look, like I said, everyone was trying to push that it was Baker, and I just want us to just hold our horses and pause a little bit because I mean, it's Tampa Bay. Like he's been there his whole career. Like it's just a feel-good story. I mean, $26 million a year at 31 years old for a receiver is just unheard of.
It's unheard of. It's a lot of guaranteed money, too. It's like 35
guaranteed, yeah.
Jeez. Like, what if he I mean, again, cross my fingers, knocking wood, I don't want to see him get hurt, but I mean, he's old. He's
old.
Now, the one thing I don't know about Mike Evans is his injury history. Is there he
puts up 1,000 yards every year. He doesn't get injured a lot.
He doesn't miss many.
No, he doesn't.
It doesn't matter if he does get injured.
He'll still put up numbers.
Yes.
For sure. Some other headlines and news in sports around the weekend, and again, trickling into this Monday before we go live here. Again, guys, daily before all the games kick off at night. Jason Kelce retired. Jim, I'm kind of disappointed in the off-air. You were upset with him, crying a little bit. We don't see that the authenticity in people these days anymore, like Jason Kelce gave it to us today.
That's true.
We just don't.
Yeah.
He loves the game of football. Great dude.
And he went through all his coaches, his lacrosse coach, his hockey coach, his football coaches. That was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, what'd you make of it? I thought it was fantastic, spectacular. It sucks to see him go. I saw Travis Kelce was sitting in there in that press conference room crying as well. It's tough. I mean, the Eagles. He was with the Eagles his whole career too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So he's a legend. I know you post some stuff on it, but just quick thoughts on Jason Kelce leaving the game of football. Absolute one of the best centers to ever play. Hall of Famer.
Yeah. I just think the longevity that he produced was incredible because you don't see that level of play sustained on the offensive line for that long. It's insane. And I was watching a little bit of film from him. It was from the whatever year they beat the Patriots, like 2018, around there, whenever year they won the Super Bowl then. And then a couple clips from last year, like he doesn't look any different moving. No. Like he's still an athlete. He can still get in space. Like his play didn't dip. That was a huge reason they were good last year. And I think people like poking fun at the Eagles is a thing to do now. Like you can do that now. Nick Sirianni, like all that stuff. I think people still overlook how good they were this year. They had a very, very good offensive line. Their defense let them down. They had a very good offensive line. The level of play he sustained is special. And like you see me wearing a Giants jersey, like I'm happy we don't play him twice a year now. Like he's out of the division, but it's an emotional leader. I don't know what that team's going to do. Like that is their emotional leader. Somebody else is going to have to step up. Fletcher Cox is getting up there in age. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't think that team's going to fall apart. They have too much talent to do it, but it could look different for sure.
I'm with you. And we saw a lot of concerns from the Eagles as the season went on last year. I mean, we just mentioned Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers, right? And again, I don't take anything away from guys who win playoff games.
Yes,
and, you can't. But the Buccaneers got the Eagles at the best time possible.
Yeah.
I mean, they got them in the first round of the playoffs. They were struggling. They couldn't win a game. They couldn't do anything right. And you saw the Eagles, ultimately collapse. And then, like you mentioned, Nick Sirianni, a lot of people are speculating that, hey, if the Eagles don't get their shit together, this could be Nick Sirianni's last year. We've got in the offseason, Bill Belichick is, you're going to have Bill Belichick next offseason for openings that come up. And you're also going to have Mike Vrabel.
Yep. So
those are two really good names. Yeah. And I'm looking at the Eagles and Nick Sirianni if they don't get it together. And I'm also looking at Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
If those two teams, great franchise quarterbacks, they've got weapons all across the board. If they can't get it together, we could be living in a world next year where we're sitting in the same room talking about two new coaches in Philly in Dallas next year.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's so tough to say. Like, Belichick is an interesting one because you look at those teams, the rosters they have, especially Dallas, like, you are built to win now. So bring a guy like Bill Belichick in, if there's a failure in Dallas, makes a lot of sense for me.
How much do you think, and this is a great, just discussion topic, is how much of Bill Belichick was Tom Brady, for instance? They struggled. And again, we're having more technical difficulties over here, but I'll continue to go on this rant. And look, it's like Tom Brady was in New England with Bill Belichick. They won year after year after year.
Yeah.
Right? They left. Tom Brady leaves. Tom Brady instantly wins a ring.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick, they struggle. They just struggle. So I really, if he does come back next year, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But again, I just really do think that overall, right, there's going to be those two openings without a doubt next year in Philly and in Dallas if they can't get their stuff together to see what happens there.
Yeah, it's going to be – Dallas is the most fascinating one to me because I think Philly has more players with elite level, elite talent. I think the young guys like Jalen Carter, I don't think A.J. Brown's going anywhere. I think A.J. Brown, I think Jalen Hurts is still very, people love to poke fun at. I think Jalen Hurts is starting to get a little bit underrated now. Devontae Smith, they have guys that are, up there in talent. They have as many dudes as the Cowboys. Cowboys got depth. The Cowboys are top to bottom when healthy, one of the best teams in the NFL. So if they underperform, that to me that's Belichick. And I think him stepping in with a guy like Dak who can win games. I know he didn't win the playoffs this year. He can still win games. CeeDee Lamb, all that talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball now, that is the prime spot for me. I think people talk about Philly. I don't know. I go back and forth. I would rather go to Dallas if I was a head coach, especially if it's a win now mode. But both options are going to be great if they do underperform. I don't think either team is going to underperform to the extent that they fire their head coach, especially now Philly with new coordinators. You have Kellen Moore, you have Vic Fangio. The coordinator stuff, it was bad. It was really bad last year. Offensively, it was okay. Definitely not the same as it was beforehand, but defensively, it was bad, really bad.
Felton says, thoughts on the Saints. What are offseason moves to watch out for? Are we doomed to be mid forever like the Steelers since Drew retired? Max, if you want to take this one, go for it.
Yeah, I don't think the Saints are doomed to be mid forever. I love the Saints receiver room. I don't know about you. I love the Saints receiver room.
I mean, Michael Thomas is just sad.
Yeah.
He was a stud, but Chris Olave is absolutely fantastic. And then they've got that young receiver in
they got two. Rashid Shaheed is probably the
Rashid Shaheed. That's his name.
I'll tell you, A.T. Perry. I know a couple people watching know how much I like A.T. Perry, but that's a guy who, if Michael Thomas is cut, doesn't play, whatever it may be, he's been out of the lineup and you've seen A.T. Perry step up. That's a guy to me who's a serviceable receiver 3 that I think can make a lot of big plays. A huge guy. I think he's 6'5", 6'6". He can move. I love the youth that they have in New Orleans. They got a lot of other problems. I don't know what they're I don't know what change they're expecting if they continue to bring back Dennis Allen. That's my thing. 100%. I don't know how you can expect significant change.
They just restructured Derek Carr's contract too, did they not?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm with you. Dennis Allen for sure is a big issue there. And so that division is going to be so interesting. I know we just talked about 2 of those teams, but it's going to be like I compare that division like the AL Central in baseball almost. It's like wide open every year.
Yeah.
Now that Tom Brady is retired and things of that nature, but again, a couple more news lines, and then we're going to get to some of the games tonight. I got to ask, guys, and I don't want to be controversial and annoying, but Jim, I was chirping you all about it until Max pulled up the video of Caitlin Clark flopping and running into the Ohio State women's basketball player. Did you see the video?
Yeah.
That makes you so unlikable. Like she's so fantastic at what she does, and she's good off the court. She does all this fantastic stuff, but like that's not the first time. It was the first time I was aware of her doing something like that. But I mean, and then she ended up breaking the record on that weird free throw.
That was like, to me, the fact that the record was broken on a free throw was the funniest thing about all of it. Because
and it was that free throw,
and it's just like such an unbelievable accomplishment.
Yeah, no
like
doubt.
It's I can't remember the year that Pistol Pete played, but a long time ago. It's the
It was the 70s.
Yeah, the 70s. So 50 plus years, whatever it may be. To break it on a free throw like that was just like.
I mean, she literally walked. I know you said it wasn't that bad, Jim, but she literally walked into the Ohio State player and just like was like, "Oh my god!" Like she got hit.
And I understand that, but you know what? It shouldn't have been called.
No, I'm with
you. As
you.
a referee, I would never make that call.
You should those calls. I think you should be able to review those, especially when it's in the middle of a timeout and you're walking back. Like if something like that happens, like you should be able to just automatically. Coaches don't have to use a challenge. You review them. And you see what happens because again, and clearly, I mean, she literally did nothing wrong. She just walked.
See, I was watching the game live, and they were looking at stuff over at the scorer's table, and then they come back with the same bogus call.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
I mean, you got to protect your own. I mean, Caitlin Clark, right, is the face of that entire organization.
Yeah,
but I just didn't like it. And then you got on the inverse, LeBron James, 40,000 points. Will that record ever be broken again? It's so hard because, I mean, there's going to be years and years and years left of the NBA. But, I mean, LeBron's not going anywhere.
No, he's not.
Like, he's probably going to get 41, maybe 42, maybe even 43. Like, I think LeBron James will hold that record probably forever. And I know it might be silly and too hard to predict, but if I had to say today, gun to my head, one way or the other, I think that record will never be touched again.
I agree with you. The sustained dominance is insane. I will say the way the trajectory of the NBA now with more scoring, and I know that Adam Silver's actually like trying to get away from this. Like they're looking at the offensive and defensive balances. Some people are talking about taking away defensive 3 seconds, things like that. Like they're trying to bring more defense back in the game. But if the NBA stays like this, where the defense is at a minimum, it will take an extremely long career from the top scorers. But the pace the top scorers are at, they'd probably outscore LeBron. Like to me, I think of a guy like Luka.
Yeah.
Like to me, that's the scorer. I'm like, he'll average 30 plus. He could play for 20 years. You can do the math on that, whatever it may be. But that's the guy.
It's a great point. But then again, it's like you just don't know because not only is LeBron so special on the court, but like, I mean, his day-to-day nutrition, his health, like that's probably 80% of getting a scoring record like that. Like you got to be able to play 60 games out of every year for 20, 21 years. And I mean, I'm not saying Luka can't do that. And I think you make a great point that I think somebody like Luka would probably be the one to come close to that or break it.
I don't know who else it would be.
Seriously. I
don't think it could be anybody. Like it would have to be a guy who steps in from his rookie year and just dominates.
Yep.
And like that, like Luka could do that. It did do that. But I don't know.
But the health is crazy because it's such a big factor in that equation. It all is just one big math equation with so many different numbers from different stats.
Yeah.
But I mean, seriously, like it's 40,000 points. And again, he's just like the other day, 2 weeks ago or whatever, a week ago, he dropped 18 in the fourth quarter on a Clippers team that was red hot.
Yep.
Like again, he's not going anywhere for a couple years. And we, the stuff that's going on with Bronny James, it's like, will he enter the draft after this year? Maybe, maybe not. But I know he wants to play with him and then he'll get out of there. But signs are pointing to Bronny staying another year in college.
Yeah.
He's just not ready. And there's nothing wrong with that. The kid's so young.
Yeah. I think you, especially if you've watched Bronny James like grow up, you've known him as LeBron's son. He's the next LeBron, just like literally just namesake.
Yep.
And if he plays at USC and he isn't a starter and doesn't dominate like LeBron didn't, I guess he didn't go to college, but his last year of high school or the first year in the NBA, like you think it's a failure. Like, you don't always have to be one and done. Like, you don't have to.
No, they hold the James name to such a high
Yeah.
standard, and if he's
Yeah.
averaging 3 or 4 points a game in college because
He's like 2.5 right now.
Yeah, but he's so young.
I know, I realize that, but it's like, who's going to draft a guy who averages 2 points a game? You know, Stephen A. Smith could have got drafted with those kind of numbers.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't think anybody would want to. Maybe because they want LeBron James on their team for the in and out of his career. But yeah, I mean, I just think to your point, right? It is really silly to hold Bronny and be like, oh, he's averaging 3 points a game. And it's a fact. I'm not saying you had an opinion on it. I'm just saying there's a lot of opinions out there and stuff where it's like, you know, LeBron James, this, his son, that, when it's like, guys, I mean, he's what, 17, 18 years old. So he's going to be just fine. I do think that Bryce is going to be the better one of the two. And that's nothing against Bronny. Bryce is just really good.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
But I mean, who knows? I could be wrong, right? And again, that's nothing against Bronny, and he could develop and become really good too as well. A couple more things, and we'll get into the NBA games tonight. NFL is talking about moving their season to 18 games. I see you shaking your head.
Yeah.
I think if they do that, you would get 2 bye weeks.
Yeah.
But are you just not a fan of the 18?
They would have to have 2 bye weeks. If you expand it to 18 with 1 bye week, like it will make players upset. Like they're I don't want to say there could be a holdout or a lockout, but if there ever were to be down the line in the near future, that would do it 100%.
Yeah. I think a lot of these injuries you're talking about off here again, like the Browns, you saw, quarterbacks. If you have an early bye week in today's NFL, you're in trouble.
Yep.
I mean, look at the Browns. They had a week 5 bye week, and their whole team went down.
Yep.
I mean, it's 17 games is already a lot, right? Went up from 16, what it was. I think you could even make an argument there should be 2 bye weeks in a 17-game season.
You totally could. Totally could.
Like, what would you lose as an NFL organization out of adding a bye week for everybody to the schedule? I mean, another one on a 17-game schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think that the NFL's sitting down, they're like, okay, we want our players healthy. And if the chances of you adding another bye week, again, even if you stay at 17 games, the players are more likely to stay healthy for the whole season.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have another year where you get, 10 or 12 backup quarterbacks on the field.
Yeah.
Like, you want the best foot forward in product out there week after week.
I do think this year was a weird thing with the whole quarterbacks.
Yeah,
that's not like, I won't say it'll never happen again, but I'd be shocked if it did.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, you had so much quarterback movement, backups in and out left and right.
Yeah.
But I would be for an 18-game season, especially because I don't think they would add it without adding a bye week, as you mentioned.
If they added a bye week, it'd be hard to argue against it. But if they just said, 1 more week, no extra bye week, just deal. I don't know. I've also heard people talking about them losing the bye week between the conference championships and the Super Bowl, so the timeline would not change.
Gotcha.
And if I'm a player, I hear that, and there are no extra bye weeks, I'm pretty upset about that. I also do think, like, the world we live in with sports gambling, like that would be a huge part because they rake in so much money every week. Like, that'd be another week of betting.
Yep.
I have seen at least some of the NFL players saying, I know Kayvon Thibodeau, this is what sparked this. I saw his tweet. There were a couple players saying that NFL players should get some type of like stake or some type of cut of the gambling winnings if they add an extra week.
That might be the most bizarre thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Well, and if they get rid of that bye week before the Super Bowl, when are we going to watch flag football?
Yeah.
Jeez. That would probably be good.
Oh
I don't think anybody, but he actually said that?
Yeah. I'll find the
what?
tweet. Yeah. It was something along the lines of
so if they add an extra game on the schedule, they want to cut in the winnings. But like what winnings?
Well, it's not even like, I don't even know if it has explicitly to do with them adding an extra game.
Okay.
But it was in response to them adding another game. This could have just tipped them over the edge. But yeah. And I will say, like, I love Kayvon Thibodeau. He says a lot in the media. He does. He is the icon of New York football right now, whether you like it or not. That's how it is. So he says a lot of things in the media. You never know, like, how much somebody believes it or how much backing he has in it. But he did say that. He said at some point, like, players will want equity in gambling, winnings, profits, whatever it may be.
What is that? That might be the most bizarre statement I've heard a player make in a long time. And again, I'm with you. I love him as well.
Yeah.
I just like the human nature of me. I'm like my head. I'm going through so many things right now. Like, okay, so what does that mean? Like, if you play for the Giants and people bet on the Giants and they win, you get a cut of nationwide winnings on that. It's so interesting and intriguing, but at the same time, it just makes zero sense.
It makes zero sense, and like I think it would probably be just like if the NFL just had a pool of like we made X amount of money this week from these big sports books, like whatever percentage divided amongst players, whatever that may be. I don't know what it would look like.
You know what that would do though is that would spark the fixed and rigged conversation. 100%. If you get gambling money involved with these players,
yeah.
Oh my God! If you thought the crazy narratives about this, this being rigged and fixed today were crazy, could you imagine if players start getting cuts of gambling money? Oh my God,
that would be really bad.
Especially when you can't fix the bad calls with your replay system. There were a lot of bad calls this year.
Yeah,
that's true. I'm very much pro bring back reviewing pass interferences. I love reviewing pass interferences.
Too much hand fighting. It gets ridiculous. Yeah. It's just a battle all the way down the field.
Yeah,
more times than not, if there's an NFL game on, and the result of the game is a severe penalty and it makes one team lose the other, it's pass interference. So I'm all for that as well. We talked about this last week, and I'm sure we will several more times as we get closer and closer to football season. But there's not only just the NFL, but there's a sport and nationwide officiating problem. You see it every day, right? It goes back to the Ohio State Caitlin Clark thing. It's just it's in every sport. One more thing that's trending right now, then we'll get into some of the NBA action tonight. Another credible NFL writer talking about the Browns and Justin Fields in the same breath of air there. And look, I'm going to get everyone in the room's opinion on this, but I'll go first. I tweeted it out earlier, the snippet of the article. It doesn't make sense for a lot of reasons. We touched on this off air. Number one, the Browns have, I will say, the only thing that goes in their favor is they love mobile quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks, and obviously starting because they got Deshaun Watson. But I mean, DTR is mobile. PJ Walker is somewhat mobile. Joe Flacco was actually the first one that wasn't mobile, which is interesting because they love mobile quarterbacks so much. But they brought in one that's a statue back there, and he looked at times really good. He struggled. He turned the ball over, but he looked good. Justin Fields has 1 year left on his rookie deal. Deshaun Watson is starting quarterback this year, whether anybody in the world likes it or not, for the Cleveland Browns. You're not going to trade a 3rd or 4th round pick for Justin Fields to have him sit behind Deshaun Watson all year. Justin Fields doesn't want to sit this year. He wants to go prove on his last year rookie deal that he's worth a contract.
Yep.
Very similar to how Baker Mayfield did this year on a 1-year deal. I mean, I could go through the list. I'll let you go, but there's a million reasons why this wouldn't work out.
It hurts my brain that this is a conversation. Like, Deshaun Watson is on the books for 3 more years, right? So he's the Browns quarterback this year, and he's getting paid for the next 2 years. You assume staying healthy, he will start. The backup situation in Cleveland, like, Justin Fields has shown good things. To confidently sit here and say that Justin Fields in year 4 is exponentially better than the backup you have right now in Dorian Thompson-Robinson, you'd be lying. 100%. I don't think, like, I love Justin Fields. I think in the right system, he can be a very, very special player. I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson offers a lot, and I don't think it's worth giving up a pick of a future that you don't really have because you gave up a lot of picks with the Deshaun Watson trade. So not worth it. So not worth it. And you showed even last year, like, the downfall of the Browns wasn't necessarily the quarterback position. It was injuries as a whole.
Yep.
Because, the offensive line was banged up. No Nick Chubb defense, whatever. You shown that last year, starting 5 different quarterbacks, 5 quarterbacks, you could get a 5 seed, have a better record than some of the other division winners. Granted, you lose in the first round. I get that. But you can still win games. You can still be a playoff football team with the worst quarterback situation I've seen in a long time. It's just so not worth it. It's like, is the upside of Justin Fields like exponentially better than Deshaun Watson? No. Are you trading for a backup? Yes. Why would you do that now if you have Dorian Thompson-Robinson? Like, I don't.
Yeah, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson showed flashes in that Denver Broncos game
Absolutely.
Before he got injured, right? I mean, there's a reason they drafted the guy. So I couldn't have said it better myself. I want to have this debate, and if it gets heated, it gets heated. Every time I have this debate where I'm on air doing something, I'm going to ask you first, are wins a quarterback stat, Jim?
No, that's a team stat.
Max?
one word no, but I do think it hinges significantly more on a quarterback than it does on other positions.
100%. And I like it is such a controversy. Everyone loves arguing about it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's everyone does, but it's like, how do we to counter what you said? No, I'm not saying I'm on your side or I'm not. How do we judge the success level of a quarterback in the NFL? Is it if he throws for 400 yards every game, or is it if he wins every game? Like, to counter, you judge a quarterback based on what they're doing on the football field in terms of, are they winning the game or losing the game, right? Like if Patrick Mahomes, or let's just say any quarterback, for example, went out threw for 400 yards every game, but they were losing, like Justin Herbert is a perfect example of this, right? I mean, everyone loves Justin Herbert, right?
Yeah.
Except for you.
I know I'm not a huge fan, but again, they're not winning.
Oh, no, I understand
Right?
that. Yeah.
So this conversation and this topic is so intriguing because everyone loves to measure, quarterbacks and just players in general. And you made a great point, right? It falls more on the quarterback than it does any other position on the football field.
Absolutely.
But a player is measured based on how well and how successful they are. Like Russell Wilson or Russell Westbrook in the NBA, right? He's triple-double king.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody talks about the greatest all time. Why? Because he doesn't win championships. Right? So I just want to come to the bottom of this someday, somehow, some way of, okay, if wins are not a quarterback stat, how we truly, genuinely measure how good a quarterback is? Nobody can answer me that question. Is it stats? Is it wins? Is it a mix? How do you measure the success of a quarterback if your name's not Patrick Mahomes because you're winning Super Bowls every other year?
I mean, I don't think there's a one size fits all. And I think whenever people have the debate, they think like they want to find, yes, wins are a quarterback stat, or no, wins are not a quarterback stat, and apply it to everybody, every quarterback. Justin Herbert is a guy who I watch and I see ridiculous talent, ridiculous. But like you said, they're not winning. So to me, I view Justin Herbert as a borderline top 5 quarterback in the NFL because of how good he is, what he can do with the football. Will he, I mean, he's young, but will he be talked about in the same breath as some of the greats if he can't win? No. Is that right in terms of his talent? Probably not. I don't know if it's right, but you're right in saying that you can't be talked about in the same breath as some of the greats if you don't win. And again, it's very different from quarterback to quarterback. I'm trying to think of the best example kind of the other side here, but I know Jimmy Garoppolo was the big topic of discussion for a couple of years in San Francisco. Like, they were winning, not necessarily in spite of him, but you didn't need him to be this elite electric quarterback to win a lot of games and win a lot of playoff games.
Right.
Like, to me, you look at that and you're like, okay, Jimmy's doing his job. He doesn't need to do anything special. He still makes mistakes, but he's winning. So I don't think there's a one size fits all to this.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's such, and you can literally, if you want, you can pick and choose, and you can turn anything way you want to fit a narrative that you might have on this topic. But I mean, look at the Deshaun Watson Ravens game, right? Like, literally last night, I know it's one account that's off the chains, off the walls, but people were trying to poke holes and say that all Deshaun Watson's passes in the second half were dink and dunk, 1 yard, 2 yard passes. So it's like, what more can you want?
Yeah.
And I'm not just trying that. I'm not tying that just to Deshaun Watson because people do it all over the board, not just with the Browns, but it's like, I mean, if you're going to win me football games, I don't care what numbers you put up, right? Like, just win. So that's why I genuinely personally like to measure success on if you're winning. Like Luka Doncic, as we just touched on it, right? It's like, he'll score all the points in the world, but if he doesn't ever win championships, he'll never get looked at with LeBron and MJ and all the top guys on the list because he has 0 rings.
Yes.
So, but then on the inverse, people like to say, if you're arguing the GOAT debate, it's like, well, Draymond Green has as many rings as LeBron James. But then again, like, it's not apples to apples there. So, I mean, again, when I say there's literally any way you can spin it, there's any way you can spin it.
There is, absolutely. And I think that, like you said, if your name's not Patrick Mahomes and you're not, like, winning every single year and the numbers don't matter, like, it's either one of two things. Are you winning football games or are you putting up these crazy numbers? And the guys that do both are the guys like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, like other guys like that who are putting up these ridiculous numbers and winning football games. So there is no debate. Once you get down a little bit lower, though, that's when the debate arises because, again, you have guys like Justin Herbert who are putting up great numbers. Obviously, Brock Purdy is putting up good numbers too, but you look at what's around him. Like, do you think, okay, are the 49ers even better with a better quote-unquote quarterback? Like, if you're not doing both, if you're not putting up great numbers and winning games, the debate will always be there. Always be there.
Well, and they've got Brock Purdy's low salary number too, because
Very
if
true.
if he gets paid, it's going to hurt you somewhere else.
Yeah.
You were in studio this past fall during football season when we talked, when I was talking to Coach Jay Gruden, and I was like, look, like, remember when I got destroyed for talking about Dak Prescott when he was having a hell of a year? And Jay was like, oh, you're out of your mind. Who are they going to replace him with, Grant? What happens every time Dak Prescott gets to the postseason of the playoffs?
He chokes.
They lose.
Yeah.
And Dak Prescott's he's a good quarterback, and he had some pretty decent stats in that game. The Cowboys defense, ultimately, I mean, they shit the bed in that game.
That was why they lost. I will say that.
It was. But I mean, like, Dak Prescott, time to push comes to shove. Like, that's why it gets so tricky and so sticky. But again, I mean, he's put up great numbers. Dak Prescott is fantastic.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, I mean, they can't get past the wild card round.
Yeah.
But again, to your point, Dak Prescott was not the reason they lost that game. And let me make that clear.
Yeah.
But all right, let's get to some NBA with 20 minutes left. Games tonight. As you guys can see, as always, the games are down there on the bottom of your screen on that ticker. Again, we apologize for some technical difficulties early on, but we're here now. Everything's good. Grizzlies Nets, first game on the NBA slate today. The Grizzlies are 20-41. We touched on them a little bit last week before you went. The Nets 24-36. Ben Simmons is out again tonight with I forget what do they say he's out? Lower back, whatever
Whatever it may be.
Yeah, whatever they're trying to feed us. But the Nets are still 9.5-point favorites at home.
I did it last time, and the Grizzlies covered. I'm gonna just take the Grizzlies again. Like
I'm taking the Grizzlies 9.5 too.
I just like
Taking the points.
anytime this isn't double digits technically, but any close to double digits, and the Grizzlies are underdogs. It's just they just find a way to keep it close.
100%. The Cavs aren't on this slate tonight, thank God. But look, I got something to say about the Cavs while we're in the NBA. Nothing has changed. Okay? Nothing has changed. I'm serious. Like, everyone wants to say, oh, it was just one game, or oh, we didn't have Donovan Mitchell. Look, no OG Anunoby, no Jalen Brunson, no Julius Randle, and you got buckets. Josh Hart had 19 rebounds.
That was crazy. That's insane.
Jared Allen and Evan Mobley had 18 or 19 combined. They have no toughness. I don't want to hear, oh, Donovan Mitchell and Josh Hart are friends. No, Josh Hart almost snatched Donovan Mitchell's chain on the sideline during the game, and everyone just stood there with their hands in their pockets like, oh, we're the Cleveland Cavaliers, and we're all like, there's problems with that team.
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell now is out the next 3 games, and tomorrow I'll get into the Celtics matchup. Donovan Mitchell got a shot in his knee today at Cleveland Clinic. He's out for at least the next 3 games.
Yep.
Karis LeVert, Max Strus is out tomorrow night. The Cleveland injury bug is back and is with the Cavaliers. And look, I'm telling you, they're in trouble. I have a hard time believing. I tweeted this last night and it blew up, and everyone was like, "Oh, you're overreacting. You're dumb." But I have a hard time believing right now they're going to make it out of the first round.
It would definitely depend on who they played. I will tell you that.
Which sucks, because how do you measure the success of a good team by saying, oh, you need to have the right matchup? Like, the Celtics are going to go in there and beat anybody in the first round.
Yeah.
The Bucks going to go in there and beat anybody. But you make a great point. And it's concerning. It's like, okay, how good of a team are they if it is a matchup thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I do think it's like it's hard to measure a team without their best player. I do think that's a very it's a hard thing to do. And if missing the next 3 games for Donovan Mitchell,
at least
that's what they're saying. At least, yeah.
Yep.
If that's what it takes to get his knee back to 100%, the frustrations over the next week for the games, so be it.
Yeah,
so be it. Because at their best, the only teams that will compete with the Cavs, at least right now, Boston, the Knicks, healthy Milwaukee at their best. Like, there are to
in
me,
the East, yeah, for sure.
To me, in the East, there are 4 teams if they are all at their best.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, and I'm not. And it's tough because I mean, you look at any team, right? The Knicks are not at their best and they're struggling. Like you take Giannis out of the Bucks equation and they're not going to be good.
Yep.
You take Jason Tatum and or Jaylen Brown out of the Celtics equation. The Celtics, I might be an outlier because
it's a different animal there. It's a different animal. That game yesterday was without Porzingis too.
They won by what, 50?
52.
Oh, jeez. The Warriors.
Yeah.
The Warriors who are red hot.
Yeah, they were what? I think 13-3 in their last 6.
And the Warriors played everybody.
Yep.
And they beat them by 52.
They didn't have Andrew Wiggins. I do know that, but still, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, he's he's not a 52 point. No, it's just like the Celtics. If the Celtics don't win it all this year,
it's a failure. Yeah.
It's a failure and they're doomed.
Yeah.
With the current roster construction. I'm not saying forever. But if they can't put it together this year, they're in trouble.
They look very tough right now.
Oh my God, they're so good.
Yeah,
They're
and that,
so good. Swapping out Marcus Smart for what's his name?
Drew Holiday.
Holiday was literally the number one thing they could have done. Adding Porzingis is huge.
And he seems happy for the first time in his career.
He does.
Yeah.
He does. But I mean, the Celtics are literally, I mean, what are they? 48 and 12, 47,
Yeah,
12.
it's 12 losses. I know that.
They're going to come into Cleveland tomorrow night and beat the Cavs booties with no
Yeah.
Max Strus, no Donovan Mitchell. I bet they win by 15, 20.
Yeah. Well, if anybody's there, I will be there. watching.
Bobblehead night.
Bobblehead night with Jason Kelsey too. Jason Kelsey, Travis Kelsey, right?
It is.
bobblehead
You
night?
think they're both going to be there? No, yeah, that's the
Oh,
bobblehead.
yeah.
It is.
I don't
They're
know.
both on the
That-
bobblehead.
That would be pretty cool if they were there.
I tell you what, those tickets are like $68 right now on TickPick. You think if you go on Facebook Marketplace, try to find one of those bobbleheads, it's going to cost you $68?
Ooh, the timing is
It's a
crucial.
yeah, especially today with the news. Like, you
Yeah.
would think ticket prices are going to drop. I can pull it up right now and see what they're at, but I'm serious. Like a lot, like when I go to the Guardians games when I was at all the ones last year,
Yeah.
you can come in, grab your bobblehead, and then leave. But literally in like the third inning of the game, because people collect bobbleheads, right? Tons of people do.
Oh yeah.
Literally third inning of the game, you go on Facebook Marketplace. If it was a Steven Kwan bobblehead that game, it was like you could buy it for $15, $20.
Yeah.
Like people would literally pull out their phones with the ballpark pass, stand on those little outskirt tables, and literally list it on Facebook Marketplace
Yeah.
while they're standing there pregame with $8 dogs and $2 beers.
Yeah.
Are you a bobblehead collector?
I'm not a collector, but I do love them. I mean,
The one tomorrow is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm going to that.
I've got a
um,
lot of them.
Oh, I hope.
I got a lot of old Indian stuff from the 90s.
Are you going to the game tomorrow night to get the Kelsey one?
I am not.
No, I looked at tickets and I might have to reevaluate the situation because of the fact that they're going to get killed. I'm not going to go to watch the Cavs and celebrate. I'm going to go to get the bobblehead, maybe even stay for a half and leave.
Yeah.
But let's keep rolling through the NBA slate. We've got like 13 more minutes here. Clippers Bucks is a good one on NBA TV
Yeah.
tonight. The Milwaukee Bucks are 3.5-point favorites at home. Let me check my notes here. 3.5-point favorites for a red hot team. Giannis Antetokounmpo is out. So I am surprised the Clippers are still favorites with
Me
only
too.
Russell Westbrook listed out. He just underwent surgery on his fractured left hand. The books always know.
Yeah.
They do always know, but hell, I'm taking the Clippers. I'm going to take them on the money line on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, no Giannis. We just talked about it. Also, you've got Chris. This line is mind-boggling.
I don't get it either.
Chris Middleton's not playing.
No.
Giannis isn't playing. What are we missing? Is Paul George not playing? I mean, he's not listed on this report. I know he's been out for some time. But I'm taking the Clippers.
And even if he wasn't, though.
No, seriously.
Yeah,
seriously.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'll take the Clippers plus 3.5 for sure.
This is why when it comes to sports betting, Jim, is these lines is like, what do they know?
Yeah.
What do they know?
They have a lot more information than you would imagine. I
Yeah.
would, you know.
Did they make the call and say, hey, look, they didn't make the call. But I mean, seriously, like those lines, every time I see them, that's what makes me think twice about that. That's fishy.
Yes.
Super
agree.
fishy. Trailblazers, Timberwolves. The Timberwolves are 14.5-point favorites tonight. The Trailblazers, as we know, are a wreck this year. After losing Damian Lillard, they're just young. It's like Timberwolves or Trailblazers' strategy this year is go out, let the young guys play, try to get some buckets.
Yeah.
14.5 is a lot, though.
I'll still take Minnesota.
I'm
I
taking
can't-
Minnesota.
Yeah. I can't do. Yeah. Mm-mm.
The Timberwolves, man, I tell you what, that Western Conference with the Thunder, the Timberwolves, the Nuggets, the Clippers. Thank God the Cavs aren't in the Western Conference.
Yeah. That is a gauntlet.
Whoever comes out of the West, it's going to be a fun finals matchup. And I tell you what, the Thunder are going to be good for years.
They will be good for
Years.
years. You got plenty of picks coming up too. And you know what? Those 4 teams, Lakers at their best, can probably beat any of them.
You think?
Yeah, I do.
Really?
Yeah. It's interesting because at their best and healthy is so much easier said than done, especially with that team. But I mean, you saw what they did last week to the Clippers.
Yeah.
I mean, LeBron James is still one of the best players in the NBA, if not the best. Like, you always have a chance in games like that.
If you got a healthy LeBron and AD, no doubt.
Yeah.
Very valid point. Speaking of a game, we'll jump to it. Thunder Lakers tonight in LA, 10:30. One of the best games, if not the best on the slate tonight.
Yeah.
If you want to get a true test of how this Lakers team is going to wind up, and again, I know playoff time comes, LeBron's different, like we just talked about, but LeBron's a game-time decision, of course. He's questionable. Anthony Davis is a game-time decision.
Yeah.
He's questionable. Cam Reddish. Look, I'm going to take the Thunder on the road
Yeah, me
in
too.
that one. I just, again, like, that's what it comes down to, though, is, again, LeBron is getting old. I mean,
Yeah.
he not getting, he is old. In any given night, something could go wrong and he could have to sit out. And Anthony Davis, as we know, I mean, guy could be walking into the arena and boom, rolled out.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the Thunder in that game, though. Late night, Cap. What about you?
I'm with you. I think the Thunder will be. I know I just said all those things about the Lakers, but at the end of the day, they're not necessarily fully healthy. They're not necessarily playing their best basketball. The Thunder are. I think 5-1 in the last 6.
Yep.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's playing out of his mind. Like,
He's my MVP. I was just going to say.
Really?
He's my MVP.
Ooh.
Look, nobody expected the Thunder this year to be 42-18 and be at the top of the Western Conference standings. They just didn't. And if anybody tells me they did, I'd love to see the receipt or where they said that, because, I mean, did you see people saying that about the Thunder?
No.
Before the start of the season?
They were fun and they were a cool team to watch. They would be like I'm trying to think of a comparison to a team last year, but a team that was not expected to make a run, but you knew had the potential. You didn't think it was coming this fast. Honestly, kind of like the Houston Texans. You could see the potential. You didn't think they were going to be this good this fast. But no, I couldn't see it.
So regular season MVP odds right now via BetJack. Jokic, the Joker, is the front runner, -159, but Shai, SGA is right there at +175. I'm telling you, look, the Joker has been doing it for years, and I can't take away anything because he's still doing it this year. But to be able to anchor and navigate a young team like the Thunder and what Shai is doing with the OKC Thunder, again, he's my MVP, and I know it's a regular season award, which I hate, and that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
Like, you see these awards like Comeback Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year and the regular season awards. I think I can make a strong argument that they should make those. You have the ceremony after the playoffs. What's your take on that? Any sport, it doesn't matter.
I do think the structure of the playoffs makes it different because you're not like the NBA season is this 6-month, 7-month stretch where you're playing 3 games in a row at home. You're there for a week. You go on a week road trip. You play a game at home. You travel to a city a couple hours. Like, it's very different. And I do think it speaks a lot to the volume of the player that you are based on how you just show up, different matchup every night. Because if, you wind up, let's say you're Jason Tatum, for example, you wind up with a matchup that in the playoffs that, teams are going to do everything they can to take you away. They have a really good all-ball defender for your position. They're explicitly going to make a game plan for at least 4 games that's going to say you will not score more than X amount of points. To me, that's kind of unfair to what a person does in the regular season throughout all of those matchups. It's tough now because, to me, Jokic will always be the most valuable player in the NBA because of the weight and the gravity he has on the court. He can literally do everything.
For sure.
That's why, I'm not a huge Sixers guy, but I was sad when Embiid got hurt because he was better than Jokic. He was the best player in the NBA this year, undoubtedly, before he got hurt. And I mean, obviously, you implement that rule that Adam Silver did, so players who are healthier get rewarded, which I agree with.
Yep.
But the gravity that Jokic has on the floor, nobody does that in the NBA. LeBron does, but nobody does that in the NBA and then produces at the level he does.
Yeah, no, it's very valid at all points. It makes a ton of sense, and it kind of solved that puzzle right there. And again, as we talked about earlier, right, as we continue to go on and wrap up here, it's like you look at these regular season awards and then postseason, and it's like I personally measure a player's success on how they do in not only individual accolades, but how far their team goes. I guess for me, it's different because playoffs have a lot to do with an award for success. And a perfect example, no discredit to DeMar Hamlin. What he did was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But again, he had no business winning Comeback Player of the Year. I personally think, right, there's so many different opinions out there. But again, right, he played a couple of downs on special teams, maybe a couple on defense, and that was it. But a perfect example, right? And Joe Flacco was amazing what he did. But Baker Mayfield won a playoff game.
Yeah.
And everyone wrote him off. He was on 3 different teams. He went to Carolina. He was with the Rams. He won a playoff game, and Joe Flacco got to the playoffs, and he got absolutely destroyed. He threw 2 pick sixes, or one, maybe the other one wasn't a pick six. But, I honestly was shocked, number one, that Joe Flacco won Comeback Player of the Year. Again, what Joe Flacco did was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But that's a huge barometer of my, measurement of these awards is why I think, because again, I would have given that award to Baker Mayfield because he won a playoff game. I just would have. But then again, that's a personal preference, and that's because playoffs and how much you win and when it matters weigh so much to me.
Yeah, I agree.
But again, you mentioned it, right? Like with the Joker, it's what he does. You take him out of the Nuggets. I mean, they're what? They're not even a playoff team. Are they?
They're a play-in team.
Play-in team,
probably. They do have like I do think Jamal Murray is a very, very good player, and
he is. He's underrated.
Yeah, and I do think the championship pedigree just around them. I know I say that like the dynasty, they won last year, but they have players who have been there before, and that does go a long way, even without your best player. But they're a shell of themselves, and I'm trying to think like are the Thunder as good without Shea? No. Are they still a playoff team? I honestly think so.
Yeah.
Celtics, I mean, obviously Jason Tatum is unbelievable, but like they probably would still be a low-end playoff team without him. And it's just, you can't compare the impact Jokic has. And like I said with Embiid, like it makes me upset because you look at what the Sixers have done now without Embiid. Yeah. Like they almost reconstructed their team.
Yep.
And, you can't win it.
So we'll close on this debate, and I'm going to give a fun spin to this as we end up, winding things out here. Again, this might be controversial and a hot take, and I don't want to take anything away from the guy, but we're talking about the MVP, right?
Yeah.
You're the most valuable player in a league when these guys were mentioning you help your team win.
Mm-hmm.
The Joker, Embiid. Again, look how the 76ers are doing without Embiid. They're terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to try to put it together, but they're struggling. Donovan Mitchell is super valuable. Look at the Cavs without Donovan Mitchell. They can barely win a game. Right? But then you go to a place like baseball, and you have Shohei Ohtani, the highest paid athlete of all time. Right? He was on the Angels for several years. He's the best player in baseball, but the Angels don't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
They don't win. Mike Trout, right? The best center fielder in baseball, one of the best players in the entire league. You take away Mike Trout, I mean, even with Mike Trout, they're not winning games.
Yeah.
And baseball is a completely different sport. It is way harder for one player to control the impact there. But I think when you throw that debate and those things into this realm of conversations, it makes it interesting because, again, like Shohei Ohtani he's going to MVP, whatever, most valuable player, but is he really the most valuable player in baseball when on the Angels year after year after year? I mean, they're going to win with the Dodgers, but if you take them off the Dodgers, they're not going to stop winning baseball games.
No.
So, and maybe that just goes to the fact that baseball doesn't have a salary cap, and teams like the Dodgers have Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman and Max Muncy and all these starters in rotation. But I mean, that makes you think a little bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. To me, it's more about the impact than it is overall production. But at some point, the production still matters. Yep. Like to me, like you could take a player off a team, that team would not do X, Y, and Z, but you can argue that for players who aren't as productive as some of the greats. Like, I hate to keep coming back to Embiid, but that's the one that comes to my mind because you look at the impact he has, like on the floor, just like I said, the gravity, what he can do, the defenders he attracts, things like that. But then you look at him averaging it was like 33 or 34 points. Like, to walk into a game knowing that you are the best player in the world and the other team knows we need to stop him and then still produce like that. To me, that is the definition of an MVP. That's why, when you look at this year in the NFL, you could debate for Christian McCaffrey. I know people like to talk about Tyreek Hill a little bit too, but you can do everything in the world to stop Lamar Jackson, and he will find ways to beat you. It's just so instinctual. Like, to me, that's what value is. And he's still producing at a high level too.
No doubt. All great points. I love it, the perspective there. And Lamar Jackson, I know people don't like it when I put it out there because I'm a Browns fan and I do a lot of work covering the Browns. But look, Lamar Jackson is very, very good.
Yeah.
And I put this out there. I said I wouldn't be upset if he went on to win a ring, and it was the most worst thing in the world I could have tweeted. But seriously, like I think we should, as fans of teams, I'll close with this and I'll get your opinion. We'll get out of here. Is we should, unless it's like Browns Steelers, right? Because I mean, nobody could go to the Steelers and I would root for him. But like, there's so many times in sports where like it's just because he is your rival and you hate him, and I get it. I mean, that's part of sports.
Yeah.
But you can't deny true greatness just because he plays for a rival of your favorite team. Like, for people to sit here and call Lamar Jackson a running back for the past 5 years is probably the most outlandish thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I mean, what did he prove last year? He can spin it with, I mean, he threw dimes last year.
Yeah. Throwing to a rookie and Odell, who's been in the league for 10 years.
And he lost 3 running backs too.
I know. Seriously. Man, I tell you what, if Derrick Henry ends up in Baltimore or one of those running backs, can you imagine running the triple option or the option with Lamar Jackson, Keaton Mitchell if he's healthy, with speed, and Derrick Henry? You got to say Flower. I mean, like, come on. Like, you got Mark Andrews to mix in there
Isaiah
too.
Likely too.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait for football season next year. But all right, guys, apologize again for the technical difficulties. Max will be out tomorrow.
Yes.
He's going to the Cavs Celtics game, so it'll be just me. Max, if you want to close on your lives, any shout outs, anything you want, go for it. But we will catch you guys tomorrow night.
All right. Appreciate you.